I'm here with Richard Spencer. He's the president and CEO for U308 Corp. U308 Corp is trading on the TSX Venture Exchange as UWE. Richard, with what's happening in the market right now, you had some stupendous news. Your uranium deposit in Guyana. Talk to me about this.
Tracy, we released an increase of a resource update that doubled the resource there. And we're really excited about that project. It's absolutely consistent grade. Every time we put out a news release, it's got exactly the same grade in it. And these are huge deposits, typically 60 to 130 million pounds. The one in Guyana is exactly the same type of deposit. And we're now up to just under 20 million pounds on this. We've got a 16 million pound total resource on it. And that's on 4 veins, and we've got another 6 veins already banked and ready to go to resource. So the potential for this project to grow is huge. So we're excited about it.
Richard, can you talk to me about your property highlights in Colombia?
Tracy, it's a huge property. It's got huge potential. It's uranium, but the uranium is only about 20% of the project's value. The other value comes from phosphate, which is big in the fertilizer industry, obviously, and vanadium and a couple of rare earths in there. And I think the crucial thing is that we're starting to grow the project. We're starting to demonstrate to the market how quickly it's going to grow. But the other absolutely crucial thing is that we've got a metallurgical process that works to extract the phosphate and the uranium and all the other elements, including the rare earths.
That's amazing. I mean,
it's huge.
That is really big. Having the metallurgical processes to extract the uranium, the phosphate, and vanadium, is that correct?
It's all in the same process.
And what is your interest in, for instance, collaborative partners with the phosphate project, for instance? Because, I know the Chinese are very driven to acquire as many phosphate properties as possible.
I think the phosphate adds a really interesting dimension to it, to the project. We're about 60 kilometers from one of the biggest agricultural areas in Colombia, so there's a local market there. And I think that the multi-commodity component of that Colombian project, the Berlin project, opens us up to interest from other companies. The uranium world is a little bit constrained. It's only got about 10 producers in it. And so if one's talking about M&A, it's typically within that very small group of 10 or so companies.
With the Berlin property being a multi-commodity play, it puts you on the radar for what? A wider range of companies that might target you for M&A?
Exactly. It takes us out of only talking to the uranium companies for M&A to a broader group of companies, the BHPs, the Anglo-Americans, the Rio Tintos of the world, the Vales, people who are interested in the phosphate. I think that's a very big draw card. And the fact that we've got a metallurgical process that extracts the phosphate and the metals all in one simple process, I think that's going to attract a lot of attention as well.
This is one of the biggest and most challenging aspects for an exploration company. How did you get to this step?
It was one individual. We've used about 20 different metallurgists in working on the Berlin ore, and one guy decided to try old technology that was used at Elliott Lake in the 60s and 70s. And it was superseded by other technology for that ore. But on Berlin, it works spectacularly well. It gets the phosphate and all the metals out, including the rare earths, in one step. So we're really excited about it for Berlin, but we're also excited about applying that technology to phosphate deposits and rare earth deposits elsewhere. I don't know that any of the rare earth companies have actually tried this technology.
Can you tell me what one of the competitive advantages are for an investor to be looking at U308 Corporation?
Tracy, I think there are 2 things. The one is that we're right in a phase of transitioning from being a typical junior exploration company to being a medium-sized uranium company, of which there are very few. So it's an opportunity to join us in moving through that transition, which should create value. And I think that the second important thing about the company is the multi-commodity component. There are investors that we've spoken to who feel that it's a little bit early to get into the uranium space. I don't know about the timing on that. But for the investors who want uranium in their portfolio but want some other things in there, we've got the vanadium and phosphate and rare earths as well in one deposit in Colombia. So it's a sort of hybrid that brings in these other commodities. It exposes you to the agriculture through the phosphate, and so it's a way of dipping one's toe in the uranium market and having it carried by the other markets as well.
Can you talk to me about the uranium market overall and what we might anticipate us as investors in the next, say, 6 to 9 months?
6 to 9 months, I wouldn't know what's going to happen with the uranium price, but longer term, it has to go up. There are so many reactors being built. Despite the tragic accident at Fukushima, the growing economies, China, Russia, South Korea, India, are putting in nuclear reactors at a huge rate for clean energy. And when one looks at the projections of the amount of electricity that people in particularly the developing and growing countries need, that energy has to come from somewhere, and a lot of it's coming from coal power at the moment, and the more that it switches across to clean energy sources like nuclear, the better it is for everyone. So I see a sustained growth in nuclear, and that requires uranium to feed into that. So in terms of short-term prices, I have no idea, but longer term, it's got to go up.
Thank you very much, Richard, for joining us today.